Well, most of the time it's family members that direct a patient to come in and get their hearing tested because they're not hearing them, or they're asking them to repeat questions, or they're saying what or huh a lot. Those are signs that there's probably a hearing loss in a spouse or a family member or a friend. So they usually get some encouragement from others. Whether they take that encouragement or not is another question, but they should. If they don't think they have a hearing loss and somebody tells them that they do, they probably do. And it takes a test, an audiogram and a test, visual inspection of the ear canal, make sure it's not something simple as wax blocking the ear. Cerumen management is critical for some patients and not for others. If it's a clear ear canal and you do an audiogram test and they have a loss, well, they probably have a loss. There's other types of tests that we do, word recognition tests, speech reception threshold, how loud does it have to be before you get some words right. Average level of speech around 60-65 dB. And if they're not hearing words like baseball, cowboy at that level, then they've got a hearing loss. They'll generally show you the results and make recommendations based on the type of hearing loss that you have, because they're all different, like a fingerprint. So they're not all the same. So every one of them has to be tuned a little bit differently for the patient. And that's probably the art form of fitting hearing aids, is not all two patients are the same. The algorithms are designed for 50% of the patient at a particular level on the computer, but then not everybody's in the 50th percentile, so you have to make some adjustments. And that's the biggest thing about picking out and wearing or getting learning to use hearing aids, is adjustments are necessary and they take time, and you need to go back and see whoever fits you with hearing aids, make sure the adjustments and the fittings are working for you. It's very critical. They're not just put them on and wear them. It really depends on the patient and the difficulty they might be having. The statement I use is, if I can't fix any problem I don't know about, so you need to come back and tell me what the problems are, and I can usually make adjustments. And there may be 4 or 5 issues that you may have with your amplification that takes one adjustment to fix. There may be one issue that takes 5 adjustments to fix. You never know with each patient, and they're individualized. So being able to return for visits to where you were fitted with your hearing aids is critical to success. You need to go to a licensed dispenser or audiologist in the state of South Dakota, or a medical doctor who specializes with hearing problems and hearing aids. Those are the 3 gateways to hearing loss care in the United States: is medical doctors, otolaryngologists, audiologists, or hearing aid dispensers. All are qualified to do the fitting and licensed by the state in South Dakota, and we have to be licensed by the state. Hearing aid practices will see anybody from kids all the way up. In my practice in particular, we don't deal with infants, but we do deal with kids that referred from school for the deaf for fitting of the hearing aids, and some through the school programs. Primarily, that age group has a defined hearing loss that's predicted fairly early on, and kids are a lot of fun to work with. They're very appreciative of hearing. Then you move into the more advanced adult stages. The baby boomers in particular are coming alive with hearing problems from all the noise exposure. And just now we're starting to see that damage show up in hearing losses. There were some studies that thought that wasn't going to be a problem. Now there's studies saying it is going to be a problem. So a lot of my practice is younger people, and what I mean by younger, I have to be careful when I say this, is 50 to 65 years of age. Those people understand technology and are not afraid to take care of their hearing loss by wearing something that will benefit them. As I said earlier, they'll wear a big Bluetooth beetle on their ear and think it's a status symbol. So wearing a hearing aid certainly shouldn't be an objection to those patients. Plus, they understand technology. Technology today with hearing instruments are wireless technology, Bluetooth technology. If you have a smartphone, you can adjust the hearing aids with your smartphone. You can use remote controls. You can have TV streamers that you push a button and you hear your TV through your hearing aids, or your telephone, or your computer, or your music system. So there are all these features that are available today with fitting hearing aids. The technology is not for everybody. As we get to some of our more senior patients, that technology doesn't work well to them. Sometimes they're still worried about the vanity and them getting old by wearing hearing aids. But we're seeing less and less of that. More people are willing to take care of the problem today. Boy, in the 30-some plus years that I've been fitting hearing aids, it's changed a lot from when we put a screwdriver in a little trim pot and turned it and said A, B, it was a little better or a little worse. It's changed considerably. Now it's all computerized. It's 64-bit technology. It's 2.4 gigahertz technology. It's Bluetooth technology. We don't even run cables to your ears anymore. We program them wirelessly to the hearing instruments, and they're small, thin, they don't show up much in the ear. They take a little bit more battery than they used to years ago, but think of it in terms of the computer that's in the newer hearing aids today. This hearing aid has more computing power than the first space shuttle went up. And they're now 2 times what the first space shuttle did. It's just millions of calculations per second that these instruments do. And they come in different price points. Obviously, everybody's concerned about the high cost of hearing aids, and they should be. Hearing aids are a major investment, and don't buy one if you're not going to wear it, because you're not going to. you're spending money for nothing, and they end up in a drawer. You have to make a commitment that you're going to wear it, and then buy a product that works for your lifestyle. Hearing aids have this particular model of hearing aid comes in 3 different types of fittings, from more of a low-cost fitting to a high-price fitting. It's the same hearing aid, it's the same technology, the same chip. What's different is, what did you pay to enable that to do, that computer and the hearing aid to do. Much like this computer has the same Pentium chip in it as one for $900, but this one cost me $3,000 because I asked for different software packages to do things. So that costs you more money. Same way with hearing aids. So buy what you need, but never pay more than what you need. Some people have a very sedentary lifestyle. Television at home, talking to a spouse, significant other, maybe going to church on Sunday, and that's their lifestyle. They don't need a hearing aid that works in all kinds of other dynamic situations. On the high end of the scale, maybe someone who works in a manufacturing plant, has meetings, has communication skills, goes to basketball games up at the university where it's loud, goes to church twice a week, has coffee 3 times a day. Those people have a lot of different listening environments, and some of the more technology savvy hearing aids help with different programs to work in those environments. So between the lowest and the highest end, you have to use a lifestyle. What do I want to spend? What can I afford to spend? And what will fit my needs? Your dispenser or your audiologist or your doctor should help you determine your lifestyle. This is what I'd recommend for you. In our practice, we're probably 50% of our product is in the beginning end of technology, another 40% in the middle technology, and the higher end is less than 10%. So you shop around is the easiest way to compare prices with hearing aids. We don't set prices on hearing aids in the state. If you're looking for a place to buy hearing aids, ask friends of yours that have hearing aids. Where did they go and were they happy? That's the best referral you can get to fit a hearing aid. Yeah, this new technology, some of the stuff that's smaller and goes in the ear, remote microphones, some of these go behind the ear once they're fit on the ear and put in the ear, especially on women, the hair covers it, but it basically disappears. You just don't see it. It's a real thin wire that goes down into the ear, and it just doesn't show, so to speak, but at the same time it does a wonderful job. It's got dual microphones for directional listening in noisier environments. Is it perfect? No, it doesn't know who you want to hear in the environment, but it narrows the focus down considerably to take out some of the other backgrounds. All the manufacturers now have an open architecture with their software, so if there is an upgrade that comes along and a patient comes in and we plug the hearing aid in, it'll go upgrading the software. Now, they never tell us exactly what algorithm they updated, but it does update the instruments, and it can take 5-6 minutes per instrument for an upgrade to happen. Sometimes it's just a simple feedback program is changed. It might be anything that involves attack and release times for high sounds or attack and release times for soft sounds. So we never know what it is, but all the manufacturers pretty much have that. But they don't do a recall to come in for it because usually it's just something subtle. The human brain is certainly a marvelous instrument. The hearing aids aren't that smart. They don't know what you want to hear. And sometimes in this industry I get a little concerned that we promise more than we can deliver with some of the advertising from some of the manufacturers. So you have to be able to sift through that and understand what's actually should be our expectations for success. They're not perfect. They never will be. They're not going to make you hear like you were when you were 20. But at the same time, if you don't hear, the consequences of missing out on information, getting the information to the brain so the brain has a chance to make sense out of what it hears, what it signals it gets from our ears, it's very important. As we have a tendency to age and our hearing becomes a problem, we'll forget to put the hearing aids in sometimes. That can be worked with. will have tendencies where if you have a hearing loss and you go to a party or go to a meeting or a social event and you're really trying to hear well, you'll go home exhausted. You know, that's a proven fact. It takes a lot of effort to hear in a noisy environment because all the consonants of speech are covered up by the low tones of speech. So there's also studies that suggest that Alzheimer's might advance faster if you have a hearing problem because you're not understanding what's going on, so the brain just doesn't have enough information to function with. So taking care of the problem earlier is better than taking care of it later. It's like learning German in high school, but you don't go to Germany until you're 80 years old. You know, you got some of it, but you can't quite make out what the rest of it is. So the earlier you take care of the problem before the brain forgets to process the information also helps too. We like to have good discrimination scores. In other words, if I amplify it, you understand speech. There are some patients who wait too long and we amplify it and they still don't understand speech. Oftentimes, through adjustments, you can overcome that and wearing the instruments. The more you wear it, the more your brain has a chance to gather the information it needs to understand speech. It's kind of like living next to the railroad tracks. You don't hear the train after you've lived there for 3 months. Same way with hearing instruments, you're going to hear a lot of things you haven't been hearing for a long time. In our practice, we don't deal with cochlear implants. Implants are generally done in medical offices with audiologists that are trained in that particular type of amplification. It's profoundly deaf people, primarily children. Now they're moving into the adult age with profoundly deaf people also. Marvelous technology. Just if you could be fit with a hearing aid, you're not a candidate for that. Probably the largest issue that I see as a dispenser is someone who has tried one of the $29.95 back of the magazine hearing instruments. They don't call them hearing aids anymore. They can't. The FTC won't let them call them amplifiers or personal amplifiers, and you can buy them at all the drugstores and mail order anywhere from $19.95 to from Sonicare or something, whatever they want to call it. People will buy one of those, try it. It doesn't work for them, and then they come to the conclusion that hearing aids won't work either. That's a problem because they're not getting fit with a hearing aid and that type of technology. They're getting fit with something else. So, in most cases, we can help someone hear better, but not in all cases where we'll get them to where their expectations might be. That's probably the issue. They may hear better, but they don't hear as well as they'd like to hear. And there are those cases, yeah. You struggle with those when you have those types of fittings where you just aren't going to get them to hear any better than they do. And then it's more of a consultation and to tell them why they're where they're at. I think the biggest question that most people have is why are they so expensive? Why do hearing aids cost so much money? The simple answer to it is the technology involved. Hearing aids as a price-conscious person, they haven't gone up in the last 6 years. The prices we paid for these 6 years ago are about the same prices we're paying today. Now, they haven't gotten less expensive, but they haven't gotten more expensive, and the technology is 10 times better than it was 6 years ago. So in that respect, they're less expensive, but in reality, that's kind of like the government saying taxes didn't go up as much as they thought they would. So it's you're getting a lot of technology in a very small chip in these hearing aids. It's developed more than most computers are, the chips are. The reliability of the instruments is much better. We don't have the issues we had years ago with hearing aids that broke every 6 months and had to be sent in for repair. They're much better with water resistance, sweat resistance. We just don't have, the reliability is there. And so they're excellent in that regard. So that adds to the cost, obviously, to get something that lasts longer. When you consider the lifetime of wearing the instrument, it's not all that expensive. The average life expectancy for a hearing instrument nationwide is a little over 4 years. In South Dakota, it's about 5 to 6, because I think we take better care of stuff here. We don't have the humidity and the salt water of the East or West Coast or something, but the people in the Midwest take better care of their hearing instruments, which is good. And generally when people need to upgrade their hearing aids, it's for a couple of different reasons. One is their hearing loss has changed and it needs to be refitted with something different. Now, most of the time with the new instruments, we can just reprogram them and cover that, where years ago we had to get a new instrument. Secondly, the technology has changed considerably, and there might be some new advances that will help them with their hearing loss in certain situations. And third, the ear is cartilage and it stretches, and if it's a custom fit instrument, it gets loose and doesn't amplify and starts to feed back, or it's canceling all the time. So, constant fitting and adjustment is necessary with hearing instruments. You just don't buy it, put it in, and it works. You got to go back and expect to go back for several visits.